When Master Evil comes to play, and Mother says that it's okay, Alex and Josh are stole away and made to watch these movies, to stay alive until the day they may escape.
Hey, so Andre, do you want me to break out your Circus of the Stars outfit so I can wear it for this episode, or what?
Which depends on which one.
Hey, the one where you're juggling, dude, and you've got that little tuxedo vest.
Yeah, that's no. If you can fit in that, then more power to you.
There's no way in hell. I couldn't even fit in that when I was 6. Like when I was 12, I was as big as Horace, dude. I was 200 pounds in like 6th grade, dude.
Yeah, that. By the way, kudos to you for starting off an interview for the first time with that. Bringing up that reference of that photo. Well played. Yeah, that actually, the backstory that is. That photo wasn't supposed to run in that manner. It was supposed to be cropped, just with the top and the juggling, and they somehow left the bare midriff and the acid wash jeans in, which is because that's what I guess I walked around in on a Saturday afternoon. So no, that was apparently that's everybody's favorite photo on the internet.
I just I was just looking up Monster Squad stuff for fun, and that popped up in the Wikipedia, the search for Monster Squad. I was just like, damn, dude, he's juggling, but he's also juggling in a tuxedo top that he obviously didn't get fitted before the shoot, and it's holding on by the love of God with one button at the top there.
No, that's how those are built. It's that, and look, say what you will about the sequins and the primary colors of that outfit. That is the second iteration of that circus outfit. The first one was even worse. I actually stood up for my 14-year-old self and said, "I'm not wearing that." And so they redid it into that. And those are handmade by Bob Mackie. So those are rhinestones and gold lament. Those are custom made to you. And I still have it.
Are you, dude? So the same guy who made Jimi Hendrix stage outfits and made Macho Man's robes made your outfit for the Circus and stuff.
Yeah, I think that maybe even for that second time, because you used to go down on Wilshire Boulevard and have to have your fittings and costuming appointments and all that. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
Hey, do you want me to actually start the show and introduce you? Give you?
Oh, I thought we were already going.
Hey, the show's going right now, boys and girls. But if in case you don't know who we're talking to right now, as if he needs an introduction, we're talking to the star of the 1987 classic film Monster Squad. He's also the star producer director of the critically acclaimed documentary 2018's Wolfman's Got Nards, and also he personally, as a fan of any 80s television show that ever happened, Andre was on every show that I ever watched as a child. The A-Team, Hogan's Family, Mr. Belvedere. He was on Highway to Heaven, which I watched every day in syndication with my grandmother. And I wanted to ask Andre really quickly about Highway to Heaven. Yeah. Did Shane Black send you in undercover to speak to Michael Landon himself to see if you could get him to reprise his role as the teenage werewolf to be in Monster Squad? Did he send you over there for that episode for that purpose?
I can answer that. No. I hadn't met Shane yet. I don't think it was a year or two down the road.
Damn it.
Yeah, I think at that moment Shane was still in college. And I was on location shooting Highway to Heaven.
Dude, Highway to Heaven, I'm telling you, that show is kind of dopey, but I have great memories of daytime television with my grandma, because whenever I called in sick, it was Highway to Heaven, Golden Girls, Dick Van Dyke, Price is Right. Yeah, Gatorade.
That's totally grandma view. That's the great grandma,
It was
visit.
the best. It was the best. And Kids that were coming up and going places in show business, just like you, man, just like you did, they always had those little guest spots where they kind of showed up a little bit, and then they get like when you were on Hogan's Family, didn't you have 6 or 7 episodes an arc? Like it got bigger and bigger as you got a little older. Like, did you do like a reoccurring spot?
I did. So I joined the Hogan Family for that season, and it was supposed to be 5 or 6 episodes, and then the next 2 seasons was supposed to be like every episode. And because the show had had been around for a while, Jason Bateman had his 2 buddies that were always coming in and out of the show.
Oh yeah,
and then Jeremy and Danny, they were bringing a buddy in for those 2. As they got older and had more kind of storylines, and I was the kind of bad kid of the neighborhood apparently, and I ended up not returning for some reason. I don't know. There's always some weird, speculation, but I don't know. I was supposed to. I technically joined that cast.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be for a couple seasons, and I only did 1.
Andre, now what I understood, because I kind of asked you this question knowing the answer to what happened on the set, dude. So I heard there was my mom had a lot of People magazines and In Touch, and I was kind of thumbing through them, and I had heard that you and Mrs. Poole had some beef behind the scenes. Is that true?
Depends on what you define, how you define beef. Me and Edie McClurg may have had a thing going. She's, Edie's awesome.
She took her career and played 2 characters, and she played them well. She was either the really nice neighbor or she was the meddling neighbor. It was one or the other.
Yeah, she was actually super, super nice. And about with people like that you just see a voice and a face that you just instantly go to. You could be like, that person's either this or that, and she is absolutely the best part of what you could think she could be. Super sweet, super nice. Not as kind of amped up as her characters, but not far. She's super rad. And she was. What was great is that character on that show was married to Willard Scott, so he was on that show every once in a while.
Wait, the weatherman and Ronald McDonald himself,
and the original Ronald McDonald.
I dropped some knowledge there, Josh. You like that? That I knew Willard Scott was the OG Ronald McDonald.
I'm
a nerd and I like documentaries and stuff.
I want to see, since we're at the beginning of episode 4 of Getting Sidetracked, a show we started like 3 years ago. We're on episode 4 of our interview show here. Am I wrong, or did you do some soap opera work as well?
I did a lot, yeah. I actually covered the major 3. I had a small week or so on Days of Our Lives one time. I had a couple days on General Hospital as a tyke, and then I was on Young and the Restless for like 2 years.
So what was it like, if you remember much about it? I've heard that the scripts are so rushed and stuff, and they're getting trying to get everything filmed as quick as possible. Are they literally like holding the lines in front of the actor on the other side of the camera?
Yeah. So and not far off. So on daytime, and I can only speak to when I was doing it. I haven't done daytime in 38 years, 9 years, something like that.
It's time for a return. Come out of the 30-year coma from your last episode.
I'd love to. I actually came up with a storyline for my character to return to Young and the Restless. A long time ago. It was great. I think I passed the window now. I'm not good looking enough, and I'm too old, or I'm not old enough. But yeah, it's a show a day.
Yeah,
you do an entire episode a day. That's why and most of the sometimes you get a script delivered at your house late that night, and then when you show up, you'll have revisions, and then they could be writing it as you go, and then you just show up and you just start shooting the episode, and it just runs through. That's why daytime shows look and sound like they do. They're very, very fast paced, and there's not a lot of going back and fixing something.
Yeah. It's they got to take it as it comes.
That's right. So what's interesting is most of the adult actors did have traditional cue cards back when I was there, but they did not provide cue cards to me because apparently they don't think younger actors could use them correctly. So you had to know all of your lines with no help.
That's brutal, man. That is brutal.
Throwing you in the water, man. Throwing you in the water at a young age.
That's funny you say that. That's how my run on the show ended, is I drowned in a lake. So,
oh, no.
So wait a minute.
Almost drowned in a lake. They thought I drowned in a lake, but then he finds me. So
was your resurrection idea, Andre, that Tom McLaughlin was going to write your character from Jason Lives? Tommy Jarvis was going to show up and put a lightning rod through your chest, and a lightning bolt was going to hit your ass, and that's how you get resurrected on Jason.
Little Brooks Prentice did not perish. He was he was found, but he goes off because the whole storyline, because there was a whole. On Ryan R, there's two major families, the Newmans and the Abbotts. But at that time, there was three families. And I was one of the other family. And so we had our own kind of giant, drama storylines. And the main issue with my circle was this character, Brooks, lived with his mom and dad, but they were really his aunt and uncle. And his aunt and uncle were really his mom and dad, but he doesn't know that.
Okay.
And so that's what he thinks his whole life. And then at the end, there's a reveal, and then he goes to chase his dad, and he's up at the cabin. And so he goes out on the canoe by himself that he's not supposed to do in bad weather, and he falls in the lake. And so we did that, actually. It's a very rare time that daytime goes outside. And speaking of, I'm not sure if Bob Mackey's office did this too, but they had to custom make a wetsuit for me.
Oh, really? They're like, we've got Andre's size in the back. Give him a wetsuit.
And this is actually that would have been before the first time of Circus of Stars. Yeah, I don't know if it was them or not. It was somebody, same street. I'd go big high-end LA, tailor fashion shop to make a custom wetsuit, because apparently off the rack at the surf store they didn't make them that small back then.
And,
and it had to fit like underneath my wardrobe and stuff, so it had to be very different.
Did they have you in a tank for the water scenes, or
no? It was actually a lake out in Malibu Canyon.
That's pretty rare.
Yeah, that is rare.
Yeah. They would never do that today.
No,
they're never gonna throw a kid in an actual lake. Now they're afraid of shit now. They don't do stuff like that anymore.
They're like, don't worry, the Gill Man's in here. He's making some extra money. His scenes are done on the Monster Squad. Get his ass in the lake over there. Andre starts slipping up. He'll pull him out.
Oh man, this is like 5 years prior to Monster Squad. Yeah, 4 years.
Damn, 83-ish, huh? So not only has Andre done daytime soap operas, Andre also did some Twilight Zone episodes.
Yeah.
And
I did. That's actually one of the cool things on the resume. Yeah.
Yeah, you worked with Piper Laurie, man. She's like, I'm serious. Piper Laurie was, even as a child, like when I saw her in Carrie and later on in The Faculty and just all these movies, she's a scene stealer, and she's legitimate. She's legitimately kind of scary to me. Like she's got gravitas.
She certainly can. Yeah, that's the word. She certainly does. And what was neat about that shoot, it was a Ray Bradbury short story that got written into a teleplay by a TV writer who ended up directing the episode, and his name is J.D. Fiegelson. And really cool dude. I'm still kind of in contact with him, these years later.
Awesome.
And he lives in Louisville, Kentucky, and he's the guy that wrote and directed the movie The Scarecrow with Larry Drake.
Okay.
That movie, same guy. So, but what's cool about this Twilight Zone episode is it's me and, like you said, Piper Laurie. And I wasn't I knew Piper Laurie was somebody. I'm 10 years old, I think. I'm not quite on the page of exactly who this person is, but you can tell that she's somebody amazing.
Yeah.
And then Roberts Blossom was the older gentleman in the episode 2 who you recognize from everything, including Close Encounters. And I'm sitting there going, yeah, these are 2 huge people and I'm doing this episode with. And then Danny Cooksey ends up being in the last scene, who I actually knew. But what's cool about that with Fiegelson directing, the DP on that episode and the grip crew was Bradford May, who was also the DP on Monster Squad.
That's awesome. Do you think that connection might have helped you get your foot in the door later on for the film to be cast? Or
no, because I don't think Brad or any of those, none of the crew had anything to do with casting for Monster Squad.
Okay.
But it's a small world. Hollywood and production is actually a small world. Everybody knows everybody, especially back in the day. And this was a really cool episode to do, and we shot it out north of LA, kind of where Six Flags Magic Mountain is, in a place that's now called Stevenson's Ranch, which used to be all these hills and kind of scrub oaks and little ponds and canyons, and now it's suburbs and junior highs and churches and retail shops, because it's this huge master plan community out there. But we used to shoot a lot of stuff out there, including the actual practical scenes from Monster Squad, where the treehouse gets blown up, and the actual house in the treehouse in the tree above the pond was out in that same area.
He just tosses the dynamite in the fucking treehouse. As a child, when your treehouse exploded, I was pissed, because that treehouse, you guys had it wasn't just the standard Stand By Me looking square treehouse. You had the extension.
That's right. We had the artist loft.
Dude, you had the Cadillac, dude. Rudy's over there peeping Tom over there in the window. Horace is eating candy. Ashley's stirring up shit. It was the ultimate clubhouse, dude.
It was a great treehouse.
Before we seg all the way to Monster Squad, I did want to take note that that the 80s Twilight Zone doesn't get enough credit. Out of all the revivals, it is by far the best one. The early 2000s is really forgettable.
Yeah.
And I feel like Jordan Peele's version kind of got the time slot treatment, where it was just bounced around. It was streaming, but it was on. I don't think it got a fair shot, so I can't really give that much of a critique on it. But the 80s Twilight Zone, man, I watched that all the time as a kid. That was horror for me. So I guarantee I've seen your episode. Now I'm going to have to go back and rewatch it too.
Yeah, they were all great. And they redid some of the old classics. This was a new one. Speaking of Hogan family, Jeremy Licht's, is in the movie version of Twilight Zone, which is cool. He does, Wish Him Into the Cornfield, segment. And, doing that episode was really interesting, because I was a huge Twilight Zone fan as a kid, seeing it in syndication,
they hold up
in the 70s and 80s. That's some of the best television that will ever be made is the original Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
And it all holds up. And it's all social commentary that still matters.
The monsters are on. Is it monsters are on?
Mayberry Street or Mayfair Street? Yeah, that's
one of the best episodes ever.
The
original.
Yes, Talking Tina still scares the shit out of me. Little Girl Lost, I think, is my favorite episode, because the neighbor and the dad use math to figure out the dimensional portal in the wall with Cha. I was like, that's fascinating to me.
The Last Week Live, that was a great one. Yeah. You can go on forever.
there's only a handful that you're like, those aren't good episodes. They swung and they missed, but our episode was really cool. And to know that you're working with someone like Robert, these are all Academy Award level people.
Yeah.
And Piper Laurie was really, really interesting and super just like you said, there's a gravity to her that's very, very easy for her. It's not forced. And you go and you watch something after that, like The Hustler, and realize you're like, oh, yeah, this person knows what she's doing. And so it's kind of it's an interesting, what's really funny is people play 7 Degrees of Separation with Kevin Bacon, and I almost, it's always 1. Like I have like 1 to a lot of things, if not 2. And what's really cool about that Twilight Zone episode is that Piper Laurie, who was in The Hustler, which also starred George C. Scott, which I did a series with.
Wow.
But also Paul Newman, of course, and my sister starred with Paul Newman in The Towering Inferno.
Oh wow!
And so, that I've got all of this kind of connection to like George C. Scott direct, and then Paul Newman indirect, but direct because I met the guy. I was just born. I was on the set, and that something about The Hustler is I'm connected to The Hustler with 1 degree 3 different ways.
Dude, and you're also connected to O.J. Simpson. 1 degree. He was in The Tower Inferno. Okay,
He was.
Andre. All right.
No, oh, trust me, I know this movie.
You heard
OJ
it
was in it.
first.
Okay.
Yes, OJ. Well, yeah, I mean, that's why I didn't answer his call when he was in the Bronco call. I was like, no,
Yeah.
OJ, I can't answer.
OJ's like, AC, get Andre on the phone. You know who I am, damn it. Get
That's
him
right.
on the phone.
You heard it here first, folks. Okay, Kevin Bacon, eat your heart out. 6
No,
degrees, 2 degrees. You heard it from Andre.
I don't know. I'm sure Kevin Bacon can beat me on a lot of stuff, but not on The Hustler. I've got 3 1 degree.
So, dude, Andre, so can you tell us about how you got the part in the Monster Squad and like what was the audition process like for that? What happened with that? How'd that come about?
Well, it was a basic kind of probably a Wednesday afternoon audition call that you get a couple days prior. What you may or may not know, or some of your listeners, viewers, and a lot of the fans know, is I never auditioned for the role of Sean. And my original audition requests, call-ins, were for Rudy. And that makes sense if you know kind of the body of work leading up to that summer of '86. I had done a number of television shows and a bunch of commercials and spots where I was the cool kid. Maybe there's a leather jacket, great hair, a lot of hair product. And it just was a natural kind of fit, for submissions from the agents. And then the casting directors go, we want Andre to come in and read for this role. Here's the character description and the sides, Wednesday at 4:00, whatever it is. And, back in that day, this is, 86. So, probably from 85 through 88. Well, I was doing Mr. President in 88, but even still, 85 through 89, I was, you're probably in an audition room at least twice a day, 5 days a week, maybe more on average. And I can't remember if I had multiples that day or not, but you go over, I think it was, Penny Perry's office in Culver City, and you read, these sides for this character named Rudy, supposed to be cool. Hadn't read the whole script yet, because you show up early, you get the sides, you read, and you wait to see if you get called back. Came back, had callbacks, had to go in and read again for Rudy. I think we did almost another read with producers. I don't think it was an actual screen test, on camera or anything, but a couple weeks later, your agent calls and says, hey, that the movie you read for a couple weeks ago, they cast you in it. And you celebrate, and you go, all right, which one? Which movie? Because back in the day, we're all reading for everything multiple times a week, and it's bonkers. And they said, no, that monster movie. And I was like, oh, yeah, the cool kid that kills everybody. Because by that time, I had read the script and knew more about it. And they go, yeah, except for they didn't cast you for the role that you read for. And that's usually a bad thing, because usually they're like, oh, I liked you, but we're going to give you a smaller role.
Mm-hmm.
And I had read the script, and I was like, there are no other roles. Like, what am I, one of the bullies? I'm like, I'm Derek or EJ? No.
Jason Hervey. Yeah, Jason Hervey.
Yeah. And
Jack Black from Neverending 3.
And I'm like, no. And they're like, no, this is a good thing. They cast you as the lead.
Hell
and I'm like, and I remember very vividly saying, no, the cool kid. I want to play the cool kid. That was a good role. And he has the jacket, and he smokes, and he kills more monsters, and he gets the girl, and like that's a cool character. And they're like, no, you're the lead. And I'm like, no, Rudy's the cool character. So that's always been a a fun story to tell and a running joke between Ryan and I. But I know exactly why I wasn't Rudy. For the last 15, 20 years, I mean, Ryan Lambert walked into that audition and murdered it and became Rudy in that room. He became Rudy. And I didn't really think about it for a long time until, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, during sort of like the beginning of the resurgence, or the middle of the peak of the resurgence. And I said, I never auditioned for Sean. I never came back and read. I never had a meeting. They just straight cast me as the lead to this movie.
That's awesome.
Who did that and why?
Yeah.
And, because then you realize that you're very fortunate that happened, that you made some sort of impression with a leather jacket and all, great hair, reading Rudy lines, for them to say at the end, okay, we've got to cast the lead. We read everybody in town, and they didn't pick anybody. And somebody said, what about the kid, Andre, that we read as Rudy? Could he be Sean? And then everybody apparently said, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, it was sort of a weird kind of thing to kind of process for years. And, I finally thought to ask Fred that question. And he goes, I think it was Peter Hyams. And I was like, oh, thanks, asshole.
Doesn't matter.
But he's like, it wasn't me. It was
someone
Peter.
else.
It was somebody else. So he stuck me with you. I was like, oh, great. I'm glad.
When-
I'm glad it worked out.
Dude, Andre, when we were kids at my elementary school, I know that Josh played Jason Voorhees at his grade school, but we played Monster Squad and Saved by the Bell.
Yeah.
I always wanted to be Zach or AC Slater, and then you always wanted to be Sean or Rudy, and
Yeah.
I was always Horace.
Horace.
I didn't have Andre basically looked like my brother Aaron, the spoiler, who spoils every movie and television show plotline ever. He's a super villain, by the way. Yeah, he's the spoiler.
I do that too.
Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul. Don't talk to my brother if you haven't seen it. He'll ruin it. But I always wanted... My brother looked exactly like you, Andre, dude. Like, it took him 15 minutes in the morning to feather his hair like Ben Stiller in Dodgeball. Just lethal, dude. He'd have that LA Looks bottle. He'd use like a quarter of that shit.
Yeah, that was harsh stuff.
Yeah, LA Looks. He'd feather it. He'd get his pink like skateboarding T-shirt that he got from some magazine at a bike shop in the 80s, man, and he'd head out the door. But you were the cool dude. Whether you believe it or not, you were one of the coolest kids in the 80s, dude. Hands down.
Well, I appreciate that. I was very fortunate to there's an interesting dynamic when you look at when you look back and you see the whole picture. And at that time, there wasn't a lot of programming for kids. There wasn't a lot of characters on TV or in films that were kids, and there wasn't a lot of stuff about kids. But there was a ton of kids in the business, and them all, especially in your 4 or 5 years of age range. And then you probably know the older ones too, if you're around, and the younger ones. And I kind of look at it and see that about 20% of the kids in any sector do about 80% of the work. And I apparently was in that 20%. I worked a lot more than most, and didn't work as much as some. But you mentioned I was on a ton of awesome shows, and yes, that's true. But there's also a reason, because my television career, which is the more robust, and I'm a television fiend. I love television, and because I grew up watching it, I grew up on it, I grew up in TV. I love movies. Movies are fantastic, but I'm a TV junkie, and it's because my television career, I'm the kid that did 5 or 6 or 7 network shows that only went 1 season or 2 seasons, instead of doing one show for 7 years that everybody knows you for. Mm-hmm. And a lot of my friends are those ones that did a show for 6, 7, 10 years, and they only did one thing.
Yeah, you actually.
So because I didn't do one show for 10 years, I was available to go and do all these other things.
No typecasting.
I was just gonna say that, Andre, you might have kind of hit the casting lottery, dude, because they didn't see you as just one thing. They're like, we can't. And I said I wasn't gonna do this again to Josh, but Jaleel White, like, you didn't get typecast as one character, and they're like, nope, we can't cast you ever again. You're forever Urkel, forever.
That's right.
Not
That's
gonna
right. It's tough, and that actually, I mean, it happens. It absolutely happens.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes sometimes they, whoever is, can break out of it. I think there are some great examples that have broken out of that. You mentioned Saved by the Bell. I think Paul Gosselaar did a fantastic job breaking out of that. Because his turn on NYPD Blue is absolutely fantastic.
Oh, that was great too. Have you seen Raising the Bar? He got one season where he was a defense attorney.
Yeah. Yes. He's really good, and he's also good on the Vanderbeek's fantastic.
James Vanderbeek. Oh, Vanderbeek is like deceptively funny, by the way.
Oh, he's definitely good. And he's in a film right after Dawson's Creek. Just blanking on it. I'll think of it in a minute. That I just dig, and I think he's just complete departure. And I think sometimes that's by choice, sometimes that's by happenstance. But Jaleel didn't get that opportunity. No one gave him that.
Yeah.
David Faustino didn't get to not be Bud Bundy, for a while. And I think that's unfair, but I think, sometimes they're right. They're like, no one's ever going to see you as anything else.
David knocked out that role, Andre, on Married with Children. I mean, Married with Children was on air for like my entire childhood, like 12 years. It was highly successful. When Fox first came out, it was like Simpsons, Married with Children, and Cops. And it was like Bud Bundy was besides Kelly, when I was going through puberty, David was like my favorite thing to watch on the show. He was great. He was my age.
He's great on the show, and I know all about that first year of Fox because I got offered 2 shows from the new network.
What 2 shows?
And one was Mr. President.
Okay.
With George C. Scott and Conrad Bain, produced
you did 2 seasons. Right?
Because it was guaranteed to go 2 seasons, and George C. Scott was doing television for the first time. And it was the biggest names in television, including Johnny Carson's company was producing it. And they were paying a lot of money. And that show was guaranteed to go 2 seasons. The other show, the pilot, wasn't even guaranteed to air and had nobody associated with it that anybody knew. I'm going to give you one guess, Alex, of what show that was.
Married with Children?
Yes.
Did they want you to play Bud?
Yeah, I was offered that show.
Oh my goodness.
So did you talk to Michael Faustino on the set of Monster Squad and say like, hey?
No, that was after.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, I was like, hey, you kind of pull him aside. You're like, listen, you think there's a monster in your closet right now, you little son of a bitch? I'm gonna be the monster in the closet for you not helping me make a better decision. No, I'm teasing, dude. 12 years.
Michael was great, and I knew David, from a young age, growing up in the business together, and we had mutual friends, and we hung out, and like I said, it's a very small world back then.
Andre, if you knew David Faustino really well, were you familiar with Corin Nemec at all?
Of course,
dude. Parker Lewis Can't Lose. Synchronize your swatches.
Oh yeah.
My friends and I said that from 3rd grade to college. We synchronized our swatches.
Corky to us is great. He wasn't Corin back then; he was Corky. That was a great show. It was later in the I think I was doing Hogan Family and then off to college when Parker Lewis was going off. But yes, I said it's a small world, and a lot of great people on Parker Lewis. Actually, a cool show. And that happens. So there's a handful. Everybody has stories like that where they were doing a show and it got canceled and they couldn't do another show, or they came close to getting it. Because like I said, everybody reads and gets close. Everybody reads for everything, and then sometimes you get close to a lot of different things that you wish you did. We all have those handful of stories. The choosing the shows on Fox, is at the time you make the right decision.
Sure.
But I wouldn't. I doubt I'd be sitting here today talking with you guys. So, you know, if the last 35 years hadn't happened, or 34 years hadn't happened the way it did, you know, had I been on that other show, you know, who knows? But it's you can't you know, you can't go back in time.
Yeah.
And I'm glad, you know, someone like Dave, you know, is that because it became iconic, and we can all celebrate that. What's funny about that, about Fox and those shows, is leading up the couple years to that, just before Monster Squad year, and then going to Fox, because I got cast. I did the Mr. President show, got cast in that prior to Monster Squad being released, and so I was already on a new network show when Monster Squad comes out and doesn't do well in the box. That was already on to a network show for 2 years. So, but leading up to that, I had sort of been in a kind of development deal situation off of the 20th Century Fox lot. And I was working with two producers named Michael Zenberg and Randy Zisk, who are giant television names. Randy was young at the time. Michael was already established, because he used to produce shows like Maude and like the original Newhart show.
Maude was good.
So, you know, and he's coming into the early and mid 80s and creating these shows for networks off of the Fox lot. And he cast me in all of them. And one of them was a great show about four boys and their dad. And that ran into some bad luck. I think that show would have actually been successful and gone for a couple of seasons. But I kept doing all of these guest spots off of shows off the Fox lot. I was doing all the Zenberg Zisk shows, and they were creating a show that I was supposed to be the lead in. And then I did one of those series was a show called Heart of the City. And that was a cop show about an LA homicide detective who has to raise his two kids because the wife dies in a drive-by. It's very 80s. It's very 80s. So the wife of a cop somehow is near a drive-by shooting and gets murdered. And then the show is about this cop trying to do his job and also raise his two kids. And I was not one of the kids. I was actually the criminal that he has to arrest in the pilot episode, and then he gets involved with my storyline and my mother, who was Kay Lenz. And so I had a recurring role on this really cool kind of cop drama show that I thought should have gone longer and it could have been a little better. I thought it was great. But
right?
No, it was
Okay.
yeah, no. Definitely no. But the other two kids that were the offspring of the lead were Jonathan Ward and Christina Applegate. And
Okay.
all three of the kids from that show ended up on original Fox network shows. And because we all got offered our own show.
Kismet.
And
Supposed to happen that way.
because it was all coming through the studio and, you know, off the lot there. And Jonathan went and did a show called The Adventures of Beans Baxter. He was like this kind of genius, nerdy inventor, crime solver kid. Kind of a cool show. And Christina, of course, did Married with Children, and I did Mr. President after passing on Married with Children.
Andre, when Monster Squad came out in like 87, so I was really surprised that it was like labeled a cult film, because in my memory, I just remember loving the film, going on the weekends to rent it at the video store. It was like, if you went to my local video store and, hey, who the hell checked out Monster Squad? 9 times out of 10, it was me. Because
Right.
this was back in the old, like, so Monster Squad came out, and you guys didn't get a VHS release, so it came out in 87.
Mhm.
You probably didn't get an actual tape of it till like 89, like, because the studios would hold, like, Batman Returns came out in like 92. I don't think it came out on VHS till I think early last week. So yeah, about 30 years, possibly. But no, back in the old days before streaming, kids, all the slashaholics watching this, you would have to wait years for a movie to come out on VHS. So
Just a couple.
yeah, I just remember Monster Squad being huge in my mind. I guess I didn't understand box office or anything like that. It was just always a big movie in my mind. So I was really surprised when I saw your documentary.
Can
Right.
I add something to that real quick?
Yes.
Because I was going to ask you this myself. Me and him are on the same wavelength, apparently. Would you like? Because I know you had a lot of tough competition. Like I believe Lost Boys came out the week before.
And it was about 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks
Yeah,
prior.
you know that was a huge thing too. But also, wasn't there like some misdirection with the way the film was promoted? Like it was almost promoted like a full-fledged horror movie, or but then some of the ads made it look like it was like just for kids. I mean, was there a lot of confusion you think that led to that, or just the tough competition? Because it was a great movie. I watched it as a kid and loved it. It was one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Me too.
it's when Alex, you've seen it because you've mentioned it, but if you in the documentary we go into those specifics a little bit of why it didn't, why didn't it connect or hit?
Mhm.
And I think you mentioned probably 2 or 3 of the 5 or 6 that I think were actual factors. One was timing of the release, but not even that. It wasn't so much the weekend. It was a number of factors. One, the rating didn't help. It was a PG-13, which means you had to go with an adult. And back in the day, parents wanted to drop their kids off at the movie theater or at the mall, or you wanted to get on your bike and go with your buddies to the theater and watch the movies. And no one was taking you there, and you couldn't get in if it was PG-13. So I think that didn't help. The other thing was, you were right, with the advertising, they had kind of like parallel weird marketing campaigns. The trailer looked scary and dark as shit. And parents were like, I'm not taking my kid to this movie. I'm not taking my 10 or 12-year-old to this movie. And then, what's interesting is the other campaign looked a little campy and kid-oriented. And so what I think happened, for the most part, not just the rating, not just the Lost Boys taking kind of attention, but a combination of all of that, a combination of the parents not wanting to accompany 6 kids going to watch, foul-mouthed, group of misfits. It was also the perception of it, plus all the reviews sucked. Like there was very few good reviews of this movie, and the kids who would go buy the ticket, for the cool 14, 15-year-olds, they're like, oh, that's a kid's movie. I'm not going to go see that. I'll go see something like Lost Boys. I'm too cool to go see that. Gotcha. And then the 10 and 11-year-olds were like, that movie's too much for me. I don't want to go see it, or my parents won't let me go see it. So there's a very small window of actual audience that didn't exist back then, but certainly exists now. And we made the first tween movie. And so, that wasn't a thing. That wasn't a marketed demographic at the time. And had the studio, if it was, I always joke, if they knew that and they were marketing this for tweens, those 12 and 13-year-olds that are going to go and enjoy it, we would have just wrapped on Monster Squad 11 Breaking Dawn.
You guys would have been on the side. You guys, listen, instead of Burger King, you guys promoting Burger King, they would have been paying you guys to be on the sides of the cups, dude.
That's right. That's right. So it's
personal.
Yeah, it's you hit the nail on the head on more than one of the factors. So it wasn't one thing; it was a combination of 4 or 5 things. And the other thing, the if those were nails in the coffin, so to speak, the shovel of dirt over the top of it was the fact in 1987 in box office success is measured by some dude sitting in an office somewhere, either at a studio or at a theater chain, and they arbitrarily put a number on movies and say, if you don't reach this by Sunday at noon, your movie's gone. And so there's very little time for word of mouth. So you have about a 48-hour, maybe 72-hour window for your movie to connect. Yeah. And what happened with Monster Squad, the kids that did go see it in the theater, let's say on a Saturday afternoon or a Friday night with their dad, go to school on Monday and go, Alex, holy cow, man, I'm going back on Saturday. I just saw this cool movie I really dug. You got to come see it with me. And you're like, oh, that sounds rad. I couldn't go. I had baseball practice, on Saturday, but let's go. and then you go to the mall the next weekend, and the movie's already pulled because it didn't succeed the first weekend. So
That quick?
you know, that quick. You have 48 hours, maybe 72, to get to a certain arbitrary number that somebody decides if you get another weekend.
See, me and Alex don't do critics. Like, we tell our audience, we'll talk about a movie if we like it or not, but we're like, go make your own decision. We're not going to tell you if a movie's horrible or whatever. Even in our riff show, we just have fun with it.
Yeah.
But, like, I was going to ask you, like, I read that the movie released at the end of August, and it's definitely got, like, a Halloween feel to it. Kind of like Ghostbusters Afterlife released in late November last year. You would think that movies like that and like Monster Squad, you think it would have performed better like mid to late October? Or...
I mean, I think it certainly may have, but those are studio and distributor decisions. But I think the reason that it was released, it was mid-October, like the second weekend, was because the kids are still out of school.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Better opportunity, to go with their budget.
To even go on a Thursday afternoon or something. But if you don't let it last till the next Thursday, it doesn't matter if they're in school or not. So, and that's what happened with Monster Squad. It became a schoolyard reference movie. It became a word of mouth after it was on HBO, after you recorded it on a blank Maxell tape and then passed it around the neighborhood to your buddies in the cul-de-sac.
Tape traders.
And then the same thing at the video store. You go in and rent it every Thursday or Friday and keep it all weekend. And, I can't tell you how many times I've heard that same story, or the story where I went to my local video store because we all had them. Mine was Videos to Go. And, you go in every weekend and rent this movie. So much so that you end up just keeping it and stealing it, and your mom's credit card gets hit for the $105 with the licensing, or the manager of the place just goes, just take the movie, just take it. Quit coming in here, just take it. I'm giving it to you. Don't come in here anymore.
You couldn't buy them back then. You couldn't just go to Walmart or something.
No, they didn't have like that.
VHS tape yet.
That's right. You couldn't buy them, but if you kept them, you got hit with that licensing fee because every single box had a license in it.
Oh,
and that's why it was so expensive. And it was an interesting time, but I mean, those are great stories of kids going to the VHS store and renting it or taping it off HBO and passing it around the neighborhood.
That licensing thing, Andre. So my mom rented the SNL classic It's Pat. So it was probably in the theaters for about half a day. Okay, so this movie made less than we're gonna make at the box office with this podcast episode. So somehow I forgot where I put this tape. I don't know what happened to it. Okay. Video and More, which was our local video store, calls my mom like 2 weeks later, and they're like, "Hey, if you don't bring It's Pat back within the next week or so, we're gonna hit you with the licensing fee." And it was like over $300, and this is like 1992.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we were living like paycheck to paycheck. My mom, I've never gotten a worse spanking in my life than for this stupid movie.
Why was it your fault that it didn't get returned?
I was the one who asked her. Like, we went to McDonald's and I was like, "Hey, let's go. Hey, what would make this day perfect, Mom, is if we went and got a tape or something." And then I saw Wayne's World, so I was like, "Oh, Wayne's World was good. SNL movie. I love the Blues Brothers. I bet you this is going to be good. Lorne Michaels doesn't miss, And it was just the biggest shitter I've ever seen in my life. Lost it, and then I took an ass whooping of a lifetime from my mom. Almost lost it, dude. And then
where would you lose that? Like, it shouldn't be anywhere.
In the trash can.
I was probably 9, and I was like, "This sucks," and threw it in the hedge or the bush outside or something. I don't know.
It's so crazy that you said that, because our local video store was called Movieland Balloons and Beans. I never saw one bean in this place. I saw plenty of balloons. I don't know what the name meant. It's maybe jelly beans or something. I don't know.
Oh,
anyways. I had rented Coneheads, okay?
Great movie.
And I didn't want to take it back, so I hid it and said I lost it and said one of my 6 siblings, must have done something. And my mom took me to the video store and asked them how much it would cost, since it was lost. And they're like $312. she couldn't believe it. They pulled out a list and showed us what it cost them to buy the movies that they put on the shelves. And that's when I learned about the licensing thing you're talking about. It was like $200, $300 per movie that they had on the shelf, because it's like, I guess it was higher quality.
Well, dude, Blockbuster changed the game later on. They like negotiated a licensing deal. So like if you rented a VHS tape of Monster Squad at Blockbuster, instead of having to assume buy the entire tape for $400 or $500, they would just send the movie distribution company a percentage every time it was rented. So that's how Blockbuster was able to have like 400 copies of Monster Squad. That's how they basically took over VHS, rentals or whatever.
Yeah, and you mentioned Coneheads. That's actually one that knocked it out of the park. That was one of the SNL movies that was better than the sketch.
Yes, I loved it.
Coneheads is fan. Everybody's
Chris
so
Farley. Chris Farley in Coneheads. He's probably has 10 lines of dialogue, right? And he's probably in I don't know 15 minutes of the entire hour and a half. He steals every scene he's in, dude. He's amazing in that movie.
You like. Love Coneheads.
The dentist appointment was one of my favorite parts as a kid. Open wide, wider.
John Lovitz, dude, before High School High. John Lovitz is still like the man at that point in comedy. He hasn't jumped the shark yet. Hey, so Andre, when I was kind of watching the documentary, kind of doing a little bit of research, I noticed that, Ryan and you have a podcast together. You guys have done digital shows together. You guys are pretty close, it seems like. Are you close with anyone else from the cast? I mean, I don't really see you hanging out with, Ashley's involved a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. When you guys go to places, but what about other members of the cast?
It's definitely, Ryan and I are definitely closer than any of the others. I mean, Ryan and I are, kind of closer than a lot of my other close friends too, just because we spent so much time together over the last, 15 years or so. We were good friends when we were kids for a while, and then we both grew up and we went, did different things. I left, the next season after I wasn't on the Hogan Family. I concentrated on like my senior year in high school, and I played sports, and then I went to college to play basketball in college. And so I just kind of left the industry for a while. Ryan went off to be in, rock bands, and then moved to San Francisco for almost 20 years. And I lived in North Carolina for, 10, 12 years. And, we got back together in the, mid 2000s, of course. And we just, it just kind of rolled again. Like Ryan and I were just cutting up and laughing and being funny, and that's where the podcast came from. We did that for about a year and change, and it was super conversational and fun. We had great guests, and it was we just came up with our own. It was just us talking with people, and this was before before Zoom, before Skype. It was kind of like super popular to do video casts, and Ashley, I just stayed and I house sat Ashley's house last month when I was I was there for like a week, and she's like, just stay at the house and watch the house, and I've got some zucchinis growing in the back. If there's any that look like need to get plucked out, put them in the kitchen. I was like, here you go. There was a giant one in there. It was crazy. And so Ryan and I just spent a lot of time together. I mean, we were just at 2 appearances together in the last couple of weeks, and we shot a movie together in Ohio. Nice. That which is cool, because now that the world is turning and things are happening again, the stuff that I had started to kind of get out and do 3 years ago that all got shut down are now happening, and so we can reinstitute that. And one of those things is sort of an offshoot or result of our show Short Ends, which I created and sold to Nerdist and Legendary Digital, that Ryan and I co-hosted. It was a show that I wanted to showcase short films and the filmmakers. Because unless you go to a film festival, most people don't get to see the short films that are made, and these can be really enjoyable. They can be programming. You batch them together and you curate a cool lineup, and it's great entertainment. And then sometimes these launch careers, and that's what I wanted to do. And I wanted to start a show that 2-3 years down the line, we have some giant Marvel movie director that his or her short was on our show, and we kind of showcase that. And now things are starting to do a little bit more with shorts, like Alter and Dust. There are Gunpowder and Sky Studios. Those are channels that do just short films. And Ryan and I, we couldn't be any more different people. Like literally, we're the opposite.
He seems reserved and kind of quiet but I could be totally off. I could be totally off.
What's great about Ryan and I is we're completely different human beings, yet we're very similar and have the same sense of humor and same sensibilities, but yet different outlooks on things. But what's great about Ryan and I, and to some point Ashley, when we go to appearances, but we can riff off each other. We know exactly what's going to happen. There's a setup, there's a joke, there's a thing, there's a situation, there's an old callback to a joke that we're going to bring up in a conversation. We love to host events. We like to MC things. That's where we're good. And like Q&As with fans, like they love it because it's a shtick. It's like we're the Smothers Brothers. But the difference is I'm not the straight guy and he's the clown. We can switch.
Oh, okay. That's
and we
super
can
valuable.
we can switch in the middle of a sentence. And I can do the joke as the straight guy 1 minute, and 90 seconds later he's doing the joke and I'm playing the clown. And it just goes that way. And so it's really fun. And so we started working on projects and did that, and everything shut down. And then when things started happening last year, I've had an interesting 12 months of, the last half of 2021 and the first half of 2022, I had to concentrate on some other things, which were a little more personal, a little more health-wise, and a little more domestic-oriented. And all those, two major things in my life happened at the same time, and had to deal with that for a while. So it was slow going, getting back into, the mix, so to speak. But one thing that we had started to do a number of years ago, coming out of that show, and then how we, traveling around, is we love to act. We love to work. We love to be in people's shows and in their movies. And what happened, and we started to really have an affinity for local and regional and short films, and, people just trying to make something. And because look, I reversed engineered a career. Most people start out local, they start out small, then they move to LA, and then maybe they get a break and they get on a TV show, and then they 20 years later they're in movies. I started out as a 5-year-old in motion pictures and on network television, and now I'm kind of reverse engineering the reverse engineering, and I enjoy going back to those smaller roots. They're not mine, they're other people's, but I missed that, and so I want to latch into that. And Ryan and I feel the same way, and we love filmmakers that are doing regional or local or lower budget or indie type stuff, or big motion pictures, doesn't matter. But a lot of times they, even friends of ours that are established filmmakers or screenwriters, they will not ask us to be in their projects because they don't think we'll do it. And if they're Monster Squad fans or Kids Inc. fans or whatever, they'll never approach you. And because it's a whole other world. And we're like, no, we all do the same thing. Like, you're making a cool movie. Where's my audition? And they're like, I would never ask you to be in my little thing. And I'm like, this is what we do. Like, let's do this. Like, at least give me an audition. And people, their minds get blown. They're like, you would want to do this? I'm like, yes, this is what we do. This is we're actors. We want to perform. We want to participate. Yeah. And now it's interesting because we are names of some, status and faces of old gray bearded men now. And
me too.
That's right. And if we can help your production, if you want to work with, Ryan or myself or both of us, ask.
Ask. Slash Trax, when we do Slash Trax the movie, give Andre a call, right?
Movie.
the only, and so what I tell filmmakers and producers and writers when they don't know how to make that happen, because a lot of times you go to convention and you meet someone like, would you be in my movie?
Yeah.
And then you're like, I should probably not. And there's sometimes you shouldn't, but I always at least ask questions, and I ask I say, if you can answer these 3 questions, then we can discuss this. And one is, do you have financing and a production schedule? Are you rolling cameras at some time that you know? Are you aware and knowledgeable of the SAG paperwork that you have to have actual SAG actors on your set? Yeah. It's not rocket science. It's a very easy process. Your whole shoot doesn't have to become unionized. You just have to do certain paperwork for your actors. If you'll do that, and then you'll bring me or us in, and we'll talk about what that takes. I will read the script, and if you have those 3 questions, then it's a viable opportunity.
It honestly sounds a lot like when I was in pro wrestling. I ran my own promotion for a while. When I also did the wrestling too, but we had to have our wrestling permits. We had to have. It was kind of like a wrestlers union type thing.
Sure.
And it wasn't super complicated once you knew what you were doing. But I wanted to tell you thank you. This has just for featuring the short films and stuff. One of my favorite reality shows, I think it was like 15 years ago. It got 1 season. It was called On the Lot. And I'm not a huge reality show fan, but this show was centered around young filmmakers. And each episode, they were challenged with making a short film, a different genre each week and everything. Yeah. And it was such a creative show, and there was so much creativity there, but it was just ahead of its time, I think. And to hear what you're doing is giving me a lot of hope, because I love seeing, because there's so much passion and heart in that field, and you don't see enough of that.
Look, and I think it is, and I think one of the things I really dig doing is going around to. I love going to big film festivals because those are fun. I like going to smaller film festivals too, because that's where you meet a lot of cool people. And I just went to one of my favorite festivals because it's run by 2 dudes that are really cool, by Mark and Igor. It's called Popcorn Frights, and it's out of Fort Lauderdale. And then they just expanded it an extra weekend and had a programming down in Miami. And so I went down to Miami a couple weeks ago and hung out with those guys, and they were gracious enough and supportive enough. They showed, that was one of the festivals that Wolfman's Got Nards screened in. And, we chose that, kind of strategically, because Wolfman traveled. Wolfman was in a lot of film festivals. Yeah. And won a handful of awards, not just in the States, but internationally. But, when I say we, me and my studio partner, Pilgrim Media Group, we decided to strategize and not be in every single film festival that asked to be in, because usually when you have a film and you want to festival it, you have to submit and go to these festivals and get chosen. We submitted to I'm moving out of the sunlight here because the sun's moving in this room.
He's a vampire.
So, that's right. And we chose a handful that we would submit to, but we didn't really submit to most of them. We got requested, which is a complete, wonder, if you're a filmmaker, that's a dream, is to have film festivals request your movie for their festival. And that started happening very early on, and we had such a good response. And Popcorn Frights was one of them that we ended up choosing just because of the location, who was in it, other programming they were going to have. And Henry McComas and I went down there and enjoyed a weekend in Fort Lauderdale. And now we're friends with all the filmmakers that were there. We got to hang out with, we hung out with Chuck Russell because they showed 87 Blob, right after Wolfman, and Chuck Russell is in Wolfman's Got Nards.
He is. We love Chuck Russell. Dream Warrior. Kidding me?
Oh yeah.
Come on,
and we met Chuck in Philadelphia at a convention, and a friend of mine, Josh Goldblum, was hosting this kind of literally in a bar in Philadelphia, a screening of Dream Warriors in a bar, and it was projected on a bed sheet, and they were doing a on this side of it. Yeah, they were doing a live commentary with Chuck Russell and Heather Langenkamp.
What?
In this bar, and the movie was being shown like on a sheet, and Ryan and I ended up hosting the live commentary because the guy that was going to do it ended up not doing it at the last minute, and they asked us to do it. So we did the live comment. And so prior to that event, we had Chuck Russell and Heather in the green room, and we set up our cameras and we sat them next to each other. I think it's the only interview in Wolfman where the subjects are kind of like in the same room and together. Like there's two of them. We usually have singles and made it nice, but we were cramped in this little shitty green room in a bar in Philadelphia. But you're not going to not get the opportunity to interview Chuck Russell and Heather Langenkamp, and who are both great people, who ironically
blowing my mind right now, dude.
Right. Yeah. Well, it gets even weirder because in this bar, after the live commentary of Dream Warriors that we hosted with Chuck Russell and Heather Langenkamp projected on a bed sheet, Don Dokken did an acoustic set live.
Did he do Dream Warriors?
Of course, he closed with Dream Warriors.
Can he still hit the high notes like he used to?
It's not bad. It's not bad. It's good.
Why did Ira not tell us about this?
We were talking so we had Ira on this show. Ira Hayden. He was in Dream Warriors. He plays Will. He's the kid with the glasses, the D&D kid.
Yeah.
We had him on the show, and when we were talking to Ira or whatever, I can't remember. He was promoting Ghostbusters Afterlife because he's the voices of the Stay Puft Marshmallow, the minis.
Right.
So, but he got sidetracked because he got mad at us because we brought up. I was talking to Josh and I brought up some other actor, and we got off topic, and he got Andre.
Okay.
He got pissed,
real quick, I'll tell you what we did. All I did was he brought up a did I do that joke, and I made a joke about how Jalil kind of came in and stole that show from the
Stole Family Matters.
Absolutely. Recurring character, not a lead character. Absolutely.
No, one off.
That's it.
Yeah.
And I was like, in all fairness, the name of the show is Getting Sidetracked. So
yeah, and he was like, what he said to me was, Alex, Jalil's not here. I'm here. And I was like, as soon as that happened, I was like, okay, the tone of the interview just got really off.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Great guy, though. He was a great guy.
Ira's he had some amazing Brandon Lee stories. He was good friends with Brandon Lee.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, believe it or not. So he had some really cool backstories about Brandon and stuff. So yeah, Ira's a good dude. But I was gonna say, Dream Warriors, Chuck Russell, Heather Langenkamp on Wolfman's Got Nards. She's talking about Wizard of Oz in that green room with you in the back room. And I remember, it was very similar. I remember certain movies, the Peanuts cartoon would air once a year because when we grew up in the 80s, I mean, if you missed the special, you're not seeing it again for a whole nother year. It was big deal.
The Grinch and everything. Well, wait, except for A Christmas Story, because they played it for 48 hours.
Well, they didn't do that until 99 or something.
Yeah, way later.
Okay.
Hey,
which ironically I screen tested for in Toronto for Christmas Story.
Oh, hell. Which one did you play for Peter Billingsley's character?
No, it was for Flick.
Oh,
really? I'm glad you didn't get your eye put out. Yeah.
Well, I think in the original script, if I remember this right, he actually does shoot his eye out.
Oh no!
Or the icicle
hits him,
comes down and hits him in the eye. I think that's what it was. He goes and hits the eye and puts his eye out.
They're actually, this is a little fun fact. They're making a sequel to The Christmas Story with the original cast. It's happening.
Yeah,
I thought they did that.
That was a shitter. That was a direct to Disney Channel, whatever. That had Daniel Stern as the dad from Home Alone and freaking Bushwhacked. No, this is the real deal.
Where's the sequel to Monster Squad, man?
They were going to do it. Hey,
it's time.
They were going to do a remake of the Monster Squad in 2014, Michael Bay, Platinum Dunes. Yeah. And around the time, Andre, when that was going on, because he destroyed my Ninja Turtles, okay? I lit some candles, I said a prayer, I had a rosary bead, and we got it stopped. Okay, I take full credit. If you don't remake,
it was you. Good.
Don't remake Monster Squad. Don't remake Back to the Future. Don't remake
Gremlins. Don't remake Gremlins.
There's certain movies that just don't mess with from my childhood. Okay, or I'm gonna have an issue with it. What they need to do is have a direct sequel to the Monster Squad with the original cast, or Cobra Kai is huge right now. I'm telling you right now that if you had the correct people that were going to create the show and introduce it to YouTube or whatever, YouTube, Netflix, whatever, there's so many streaming platforms. Monster Squad, if it was done correctly, in today's year 2022, it could go. It would be popular. I'm telling you right now.
They've been asking and talking about that for about 5 years.
Let's do it.
Even to Fred and Shane.
Are you down?
And then there's it's always been a rights issue. So the whole thing with it's always been a rights issue. And even when Bay and Platinum Dunes, along with Rob Cohen, were remaking it, they don't necessarily know if they actually had the rights to do it or not. Because Paramount, for the last 10 or 12 years, has said we own the rights to Monster Squad. Because we had to deal with Paramount making Wolfman's Got Nards with some of the BTS footage that we had, because they actually owned that. And then all of the Monster Squad footage that we used in Wolfman was fair use, so we didn't have to purchase that.
Beautiful.
Even though the guy at Paramount tried to hijack the BTS stuff and make us pay for the Monster Squad footage, it was a whole thing. Yeah, it was kind of a dick move. But when the weird thing is when you ask Paramount to prove that they have the rights to Monster Squad, they are unable to. And so there's a thing in media law that if rights are in dispute and cannot be proven after 35 years, they revert to the original authors.
That's what happened with Friday the 13th, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, they're bitching at each other. Sean, Cunningham and
it's fixed now. It's over now.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
So, if anything happens with Monster Squad IP or anything else, I think it's now back in the hands that it's supposed to be. I don't know any updates. I know there's been, various conversations over the last few years, but I don't think Shane or Fred are interested in when they're in the room with giant names like Netflix and other things, when literally the story it's been printed, so it's okay to tell the story. But I think Fred and Shane were in a meeting together. I think it was at Netflix, and they were like, okay, so we really want we want to do Monster Squad, but we want to update it, and we want it to have the stuff, but we want it to be about a group of kids that has to fight some supernatural powers, and have you seen Stranger Things? And I think Fred and Shane were like, have you seen Stranger Things? Like, you made it. Have you seen it?
You guys are part of the original Stranger Things.
Right. So I think Fred's take on the meeting was, wait a minute, you want me to make a movie or a show about a show that you made about a movie that I already made?
That's ridiculous.
I think we've already done that. I don't think this is interesting. And then I think another meeting, if it was the same one or somewhere else, the execs on the other side of the table, this is very studio, exec on brand, was like, okay, so it's a group of kids, and they find something, and it's evil, and they're the only ones that know about it, and it comes after them, but no one else knows, and then they grow up, and it's the same. But it's they grow up, and then they have to do it again.
So it's it.
So Shane, it's a great quote. Shane goes, "That's it." And the execs are like, "Yeah, that's what we want." He goes, "No, that's it." They're like, "Yeah, that's what we want." He's like, "No, that's Stephen King's It. You're already airing it right now."
You're like, who's on first?
That's
like,
right. And but that's very Hollywood, for execs and studio suits. Nobody wears suits anymore. It's great. It's like t-shirt and jeans and Chuck Taylors. But
nice.
It's like, hey, whatever's hot and popular right now, we want that. And you're like, I wouldn't be surprised if a studio exec actually asked, what's what else is popular? Like The Stranger, like go to the Duffer Brothers and go, can you make a movie about 5 kids that find like a supernatural? And they're like, we're doing that. And let's make another one.
Downside up. They're going to be in the downside up on this.
Yeah, that's right. So, I think there's a lot there. I mean, there's obviously some cool stories, and there's there's great concepts for sequels or reboots or series or whatever. But we'll see. I don't know. I came up with a rad one about 10 years ago or 8 years ago, and I think if you did something like that, if you made it for the original fans first and then worried about the expanded audience, you'd be okay. But that's not how networks and studios want stuff. They want the giant audience first, and if you disenfranchise or you disrespect your core audience, they don't give a shit.
That's what they did that with. I'm a huge Masters of the Universe fanatic, and when they did the reboot for not Kevin Smith's version, but the child one, it's like He-Man. It's on Netflix also.
Yeah.
It's made for like 7-year-olds, and like so basically it's not getting renewed because the core audience that loves He-Man is like, what is this shit? Like, this is terrible.
Right. And they're going with like, okay, this isn't for you, Alex. This is for your friend's kid.
Yeah,
which I get, which is why I've had to completely separate and remove my Star Wars fandom, because all the new Star Wars shit is not made for me.
The Mandalorian. And
it's okay. I mean, even the movies, even
the new films,
the prequels, the new film. Yeah, there's only one. There's only one that has any Star Warsy in it, and it's actually the most Star Warsy movie of any Star Wars made, and that includes the original 3, and that's the only one I like.
Well, I was just gonna say the new trilogy. I was talking to my friend the other day about this, and it was like, so basically what you said when people pitch ideas that have already been done. It's like, what if we take, like, there's this person and they're like poor and they don't know who their real family is, and they're gonna be really important and be a Jedi later on. But let's make it, instead of Luke, let's just make it a female. And then they just took the original 3 and just
put them all in one.
Yeah, they just redid the same thing.
It can go the other way too, where they're too much to their core audience. Like, I thought the 2017 Power Rangers movie was pretty good, right? But it was too niche. You know, it didn't expand to. They couldn't expand it to a bigger crowd than the 30-somethings that went there to see it.
Well, that's the trick. I mean, you got to find some way to do that.
Yeah,
and, if you're talking about a sequel with Monster Squad, it's very easy to do that. You pay homage to the original. You fill in some plot holes. You do some callbacks. You have some faces. You honor those, and then it's a passing of the torch. And you have new kids, and there's a new adventure. And I love a storyline. I'm not giving mine away, but part of it is, we're back, and we've got to kind of do it again for one of two reasons, and we blow it. Like it does
just like Van Helsing back.
Yeah, but our kids have to come in and actually they have the solve, and I think that's smart. Star Wars stuff. Disney doesn't give a shit. Disney wants to sell things and sell tickets to parks. That's all. They want licensing. They want to sell. And we learned all of that from Lucas's decision to add Ewoks in at the end instead of having a really cool storyline for Return of the Jedi.
Afterlife found a really good balance for nostalgia and bringing a new audience in. I really thought Ghostbusters Afterlife nailed it. I wanted to ask you something about working as a kid on Monster Squad before making the movie. Because I know as a kid, like, Halloween time, everybody was the Mummy or the Wolfman or Dracula, but they weren't really scary, Like, were you into them much as a kid before doing the movie? Like Universal monsters?
I knew of them. I had seen them because I was actually, I don't say that weird kid because we're all weird, but I loved watching television. I'd watch it late at night, and I'd watch it all day long Saturday. I'd get up early. You have cartoons, sports, kung fu theater, and then old movies. And I couldn't wait to Saturday, all day Saturday. And I'd either be playing in the neighborhood, going on adventures, riding my bike, things like that, and I'd come back and I'd watch all that. I did. I watched late at night. I watched all, old Frankenstein, old Wolfmans, Creature from the Black Lagoon's my guy. Whether you remember all these things or not, you've seen them. But see, I actually grew up as a sci-fi kid. I was a sci-fi fan, so I really dug sci-fi stuff. And if sci-fi was scary, then even better. And so I would rather go see a movie about aliens or spacefaring adventure than go see Friday the 13th in 3D.
Okay.
But I went to them all.
Yeah.
Or I'd go see a Bond movie with my dad. That's my dad was a big Bond movie, and I also grew up. If you're late 70s, early 80s, mid 80s, teenager, this is post Vietnam, so there's a lot of Vietnam social commentary movies coming out, and then still a lot of World War II stuff that was being made, and that's my dad's generation, because my dad was older than my friends' dads, but he was in between those wars, but it meant a lot. And so great World War II movies, and definitely Cold War espionage thrillers. So that was my jam because of my dad. And so Bond was the campy end of Cold War espionage thriller, and if you had Gene Hackman in something, then it was the other end of it. So it was great.
Nice.
So Andre's got a great memory with his dad seeing a Bond film, Alex, and my memory with my dad is seeing Joe Schumacher's Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
Okay. And I have and you guys have those warm memories of films with your fathers, and I have an amazing memory of my mom spanking my ass because of It's Pat. So we're all in the same boat.
You still owe her $300.
Yeah.
Mine was awesome because I loved the drive-in, and we had one in LA where I lived. We actually had a bunch, and you could go to Van Nuys, you could go to Winnetka 4, and wow. I remember going to the Winnetka 4, which is right next to the Northridge Mall, and went my dad's big ugly brown Ford work car, and I remember we started going to the drive-in when you used to put the can on your window.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
so you can have the sound from the movie.
But then when they changed the technology, which was space age shit, when you clipped that thing on your antenna and it came through your radio, that was crazy. And I remember one of the first movies we ever saw like that. We went and I saw Octopussy at the drive-in.
Oh, dude, James Bond, baby. Yeah. You were probably having a great time then. That's right in your wheelhouse, dude. Yeah, the drive-in and Bond.
Oh yeah, and Maude Adams. I think that was a very seminal moment in my life to understand why Bond women are important and the impact they have on the male psyche, and because Maude Adams blew my mind. I was like, who is that?
Just a dime.
Like, who is that?
So once again, Andre has this coming of age moment with his dad watching Bond, and all I got is me and my dad 10 minutes into Batman and Robin going, what the hell did Arnold Schwarzenegger just say? Really?
Hey, Andre, before we kind of wrap this up, man, I used to work for Fox Sports. In my background, I was a Fox Sports radio guy for 3 or 4 years, and then COVID kind of took that away because you couldn't have two people in the same studio at the same time. Fox was really, they were really weird about having. So I was like the producer. I did the sound. And I was the co-host. So I'd kind of drop in and I was a sidekick, whatever. So when I was kind of researching your background a little bit, man, you were into sports, dude. You played golf. You played college basketball. Yeah. What other sports did you play? So are you a scratch golfer?
Oh, I wish. Right now I'm an 8. My index is a 7.8, so I'm an 8.
You're decent. You're decent though, dude. That's good.
I'm decent, and I could be better if I would just, I played this morning. I slid a lot of putts right by. I was like, I couldn't hit the ball any better all day, and I couldn't drop. I just couldn't drop these 6-7 footers today, and sometimes I do. Golf is my main jam right now. I grew up playing all sports, but basketball was sort of my favorite, even though I'm the short, stocky guy.
Point guard?
I'm a point guard.
Okay.
If you my Twitter handle, of all the things I've done in my life, my Twitter handle starts out with point guard. And that's never changing because I approach everything I do from the mentality of a point guard. And I had a great experience. I played 4 years in college at 2 different schools, and got asked. My dream was to play overseas after that, and ended up getting an offer and didn't do it. So it was still great. And I was technically better at all the other sports. I just put more time into basketball. Yeah. And that was also the sport that everybody my senior year in high school, when I said that's what I wanted to do, they said, that's not going to happen. I said, you're insane. And I was like, but that's what I want to do, and I'm going to go do that. And no one supported it. No one thought it was a good idea. And I went and did it, and I enjoyed giving everybody the bird. And but that led me on a different path for a while. And I even worked I was a sports writer at newspapers for a number of years, and
excellent.
Got through that, and could have gone in the coaching route, and could have gone in the officiating route. I was a high school basketball official for a couple of years, and
you can make extra money on the weekends doing that, man. Pretty decent.
Yeah, and that was actually something I almost regret not pursuing. I just didn't want to at the time, because I got heavily recruited to be a college official, and that would have been pretty. Yeah, I was actually a very good official, and I could have made a thing out of that, but I was like,
yeah.
But yeah, sports was always a big deal. Either playing or enjoying them, and then ended up working in an industry with one of my best friends. I'm actually sitting in his house right now, but who started a company that is now is the largest sports travel ticketing and hospitality company in the country. And I started working there and ran a department of that company for years, and I got totally burnt out on sport.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
and I just don't like the state of sports. I don't like. I know it's a whole era. I just don't enjoy it as much. I think the money's ridiculous. It's ruined everything. Now I've never been a big gambler. I don't mind if someone's into gaming and sports prop betting and all that. That's fine. If you enjoy that, that's great. It's not my jam. I also think that has an effect to ruin sports more. And but it's not my era. It's fine. It's like the Star Wars movies. It's not for me right now. There's other things that I'm interested in. But I love golf. And then now we got controversy in that, damn it. It's like, why does someone got to come in and ruin something? Just let me have it. Go away.
The Live Tour is like, Josh, I know you're not really into sports that much, but this Live Tour is like kind of Saudi money backed. It's they're offering ridiculous amounts of money for people to leave the PGA Tour, which is basically the NBA, the MLB, NFL. They offered Tiger Woods $750 million to come play events.
Wow.
And Tiger was like, no, I'm good. I'll just open my putting golf course down to Florida. Well, this is a serious thing. Tiger Woods just opened an 18-hole putting golf course in Florida, and it's like a really big deal, by the way. So it's like Putter's Paradise Mini Golf in Coos Bay, Oregon, on steroids, designed by the world's greatest golfer ever.
Table tennis, they're coming for you next.
Yeah,
they're going to own everything, but I would have traded them if outside entities are going to just buy something. I would have traded the professional tag league and cornhole, but leave me golf. It's fine.
Curling.
Oh no, don't mess with curling. I'm a curling fan. I like curling. Curling's fascinating to me.
Dude,
yeah,
so Andre,
you can have the other ones, but yeah, golf is my jam. Golf and yoga. I had a weird year last year, like I said, and I used to be super active. I'm still active, but golf and yoga is sort of the only thing I'm super active now. It's what happens when you have a massive heart attack. And,
I didn't want to bring that up.
Oh no, feel free. It's fine.
Okay, so Josh, Andre had like 100% blockage in his core. It wasn't what part? Like 100% blockage on the coronary carotid artery, or was it
my right coronary artery? Because you have they say 3, but you have 4 arteries that supply your heart muscle with blood and oxygen. Not the blood in your heart, but the arteries that supply the muscle.
Yeah.
And my right coronary artery ruptured, and internally. So it was blocked a little bit, and then it ruptured. And when that happens, your body responds by clotting. So it needs to plug the hole. And what happens most of the time is that clot grows too big and cuts off the blood supply to that side of the heart, and you have a heart attack. And I was playing tennis with one of my best friends, and started feeling a little weird. And I went through a massive amount of experience in a very short amount of time, and came very close to checking out. So
Andre, I'm so glad that
glad
you
you're
didn't.
here with us.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I saw so I remember when this happened, and I tweeted you, and that's how I actually first contacted you. I just said, "Hey, man, I hope you feel better." You were in the hospital. You gave the thumbs up.
Oh yeah. Did I respond to your message?
You responded to the tweet. Yeah, you responded to the tweet.
Okay.
And then
I tried, which is hard. I got a lot.
And then I wish you a happy birthday. I was gonna say though, I was really confused, man, because Andre, I used to weigh like 358 pounds.
Okay.
And in the last 3 years, I've lost. I've worked out every day for 3 straight years, dude.
Fantastic.
It's impressive.
It
I was
absolutely
gonna say,
is.
when I saw your photos though, and I knew you were an athlete, I was perplexed because I was like, how did Andre have this massive heart attack when he's played sports his whole life? He's been fit for his whole life. He's not overweight, really.
Right.
Like, what the hell happened? Did they say what happened?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's and what you're talking about is what we always associate with health and fitness, or fitness and health. Lifestyle is super important. Like, you've got to take care of your body. If you're a few pounds overweight, it does wonders to not be overweight. And you've done. I mean, that's super impressive. And
thank you.
But I've never been a big drinker. I've never smoked. I don't use. I eat super clean, healthy. I don't eat junk food. I haven't had a soda in like 12 years.
Wow.
And I eat pretty much light, clean food. Every once in a while, you have slices of pizza or something, but that's how I've always been. Yeah. And most of my friends were like, wait a minute, if you had a heart attack, I am screwed.
Yeah, that's what I thought, dude. When I saw you, I was like, I'm fucked.
Well, the reality of that is lifestyle is super important. How you treat your body, what you do to it, what you put into it, what you put on it, and how you think inside of it, affects you. That's super important. It's always secondary to genetics. And you can have people that abuse their body left and right, and just end up having a genetic, kind of combination that they can last, and they won't have all these degenerative stuff or have these issues. 100. So that's right. And obviously Keith Richards has fantastic genetics somewhere, even though he's British. But he got a combination somewhere. But it really is secondary to genetics, and you're always fighting. If you have bad genetics in certain areas, you're fighting uphill, and then you've got to be really, really cognizant of your lifestyle or your activity. I never, kind of really worried about it for too long because I was always eating well and always active. The message is, no matter what you think you are or doing, make sure you stay updated, make sure you go to the doctor, make sure you get tests, do lab work, get your yearly physical, especially when you get to 40, 45, start paying attention to things. Don't assume. I had a couple years where I didn't stay on top of things, and maybe we would have caught it, but I don't think so. This was something that, I had some buildup and some blockage in that artery apparently. And, I also am not a very stressful person, never have been. But that year, the year and a half or two leading up to that was probably the most, outside stressful and oxidative kind of effect that I probably ever had experienced in my life. And I think all of those things plus some physical stuff all came and got me at the same time. So it just kind of they all comboed up to punch me out. And
but they didn't. You came back.
But they didn't. And I think the reason I made it through that hour or 45 minutes is because of the lifestyle and because of the activity. A lot of people don't get that opportunity. Luckily, I was where I was, who I was with, doing what I was doing, and not far from where I needed to be critically in a very short amount of time. So those things lined up in my favor as well. And a lot of that, I thank my buddy Mike, who was with me and got me to where I needed to be.
My wife is actually an LPN, so she's always on me, like constantly.
Yeah.
About what I'm eating and drinking, and she's also a huge fan of yours.
Oh well, Tell her I said hello.
She's at work right now, and she
Oh, good
asked
for her.
me if I could get you to say hello to her. Her name's Beth.
Her name is Beth.
Yes, if you could say hello to Beth, that would be awesome.
Well, hello, Beth. It's Andre here. Thank you for being a fan, and I hope you're doing well at work and helping people, and I guarantee you're not getting enough credit for what you're doing. So I will give you a little bit of that today. And just so you know, Beth, the name Beth was one of my first actual crushes in 3rd grade. Her name was Beth Rose, and I always love the Kiss ballad Beth.
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
So next time I hear that song, I will dedicate it to her.
Oh, that's awesome. I don't know if I should be jealous or what. No, thank you. Man.
No, celebrate it. It's good. It's fine. It's good. What song would you like? What song would you like?
I'm so glad that you got through that, man. Seriously,
I appreciate it. It was it was a weird. It was certainly a weird experience. But I was there and awake and active the entire time, and then you realize, when it's all said and done, and a very capable team and a cath lab at a hospital in Las Vegas saves your ass. And I was the second of 5 that day that they had in that cath lab. And while I was in there waiting for my ICU room, someone else was coming up the elevator that needed to be on the table that I was on. Oh. And I mean, these happen every day. And so that's sort of the message too. One of the cath lab staff asked me, he's like, "You were playing tennis this morning?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, He said, "It's probably the best thing that you did today." I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, what happened to you happens all the time while we're sleeping in the morning, and you don't know it, and you don't know it." And I wish he had waited like a day to tell me that, because then I started freaking out a little bit. And he goes, "Yeah, so you being up and active and with people, that's what it's probably while you're still around." And I said, "Oh, okay, I'll take that." And like I said, things lined up, but don't take anything for granted. Don't assume. I kind of created a new motto for my. It doesn't have to just be my my dude friends of certain age. It can be anybody. But mostly men don't pay attention and they don't want to go get stuff looked at. Yeah. You'd rather be wrong than too late. So if something's weird, just go ask, look at it, research it yourself, find out if it's something you should be worried about, go see your doctor, go get something checked. A lot of us that are 40, 45, 50, we're going down. Like it's weird. It's not just cancers and car wrecks. It's strokes. It's heart attacks. A lot of stuff's going on now. So just, try to take care of yourself and, always sort of be aware. And if something's wrong, figure it out, find out. You'd rather be wrong than too late.
You and Alex, with everything you're saying and what Alex has been doing, y'all could put together a hell of a motivational video. Because man, he has spent every day going out and putting out these positive messages to people when he's running, and he
great, yeah. So let's go on the road and do speeches.
Hey man,
I'll do it. You set it up, I'll show up.
I'll go get in contact with Steve, the owner of Fox Sports Radio in town, and I'll say, listen, we're going to get some big names here, and we're going to motivate the shit out of some people around the world. And then also, we're going to plug into David Goggins, the Marine. I don't know if you're familiar with David Goggins. We're going to get him on stage and tour with us.
Do it.
Push-up challenges and dips. So, yeah.
I used to be able to do good dips. What's funny is leading up to the heart attack, that was on July 3rd of last year. It's been a year and change. For 60 days, I was actually working out, and no one kind of knew. But the 30 days prior, I did it publicly on Instagram with my followers, and I did. Oh, hell yeah. I did an activity challenge. It wasn't a fitness challenge. It wasn't like we got to run 3 miles in 18 minutes challenge. It wasn't a fitness challenge. It was just an activity. It was called Active with Andre, like hashtag Active with Andre. Something. Just do something.
Yeah.
And because we'd all been sitting around for 2 years, right? And I had a lot of people follow, and they sent me their videos, and they liked it, and then they did their own, and they hashtagged it. I didn't go, I don't have a giant following, but it was, the ones that did it were amazing. because I had an ulterior motive behind it. Is I was supposed to the next week, like July 12th or so, I was supposed to go to Texas to be the lead in a film that my friend Derek Johnson was making. That he wrote the script for me. I was supposed to be the lead, and I needed to get in shape a little bit. So I just wanted to, trim down. I was eating super clean for a month, and I was working out every day, doing something. I was swimming, walking, doing yoga. I was actually lifting with my buddy Mike or playing tennis.
Yeah.
And I did it active for 30 days, and the day before I had the heart attack was the last day of the challenge.
God, it's so,
And
everybody.
and I woke up the next morning and had a heart attack.
And everybody saw your post that's been following for 29 days, and they're like, so this is what happens after 30 days? Fuck that.
That's right.
Wait, everybody's like, is this today's challenge?
That's right.
Is this mandatory?
Andre's
like,
like,
no.
Statistically, I'm the only one who's going to make it out of this 30th day here.
That's right.
Yeah. No, dude, so I was going to
it was
say,
good.
Andre, I was going to say what he said, though, about like I would always talk about like you never know who's watching, right? You never know who's so you always want to be kind, and you kind of want to. I've never had anyone get pissed off at me because I was nice to them. But
right.
So when I first started exercising, dude, I was like 358 pounds. I could not even walk a mile. So around my apartment complex, it's like a mile, 1.2 miles. So I would just walk my fat ass around the block, 1.2 miles for 30 minutes. So a year goes by, and then 2 years goes by, and all of a sudden I'm down like 140, whatever. This guy who managed a store and lock facility, like a storage facility where you put, storage wars, whatever.
Yeah.
He pulls me aside, like he grabs me from. I thought he was a cop or something. He like pulls me aside. He's like, "Hey, I need to talk to you." And I was like, "What the hell is this about?" And he's like, "I want to talk to you. I've seen you every day for 2 years. Go around this block, and you motivated me, and I lost 100 pounds." Some dude I don't even know who ran a storage facility, Andre. It was bizarre, man.
And you got to take that. I mean, that's good on you, and literally that makes you feel good. I've had a handful of friends and a handful of fans, and some are friends that are fans that have said, "Hey, your experience," and then you keep talking about it. I've actually gone and looked at something, and we found something that I'm treating.
It's amazing
because who knows, in 2 years that could have come up and checked me out, and I was like, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And if I was the catalyst to that, then I will definitely take pride in that. And what's really funny is it's something else that I'm always in my notebook coming up with ideas or projects, and that's just how it is. And I was just on the phone for an hour for a big thing with my buddy in Asheville, and this was, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. I had wanted to start a men's health awareness campaign, not a company, not a nonprofit. Because I don't know if you remember, depends on where you are. It was big in the South, for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. There's always awesome campaigns because it's about it's just awareness. It's like, and they've got to come up with such great things for people to even think about it.
Pink bats in baseball.
The pink bats. Okay, so now the NFL. I mean, that's giant awareness and exposure. And there was a great campaign in where I was living at the time for a number of years, and it was a ribbon, and it had merch, and it said "Save the Tatas," and I thought that was the best one of all of them because it was so cheeky and it was so on point, and it just, you're like, "Yep, I support that one. I'm gonna buy this shirt." It's a fantastic.
So on point.
And it was just awareness campaign. And of course, then I moved back out to LA, and I moved to do this television show concept where I shot the kind of first part of it to pitch, and I'm doing that, but then I ended up doing short ends and doing the documentary instead of this big television show. And I had my lawyer start, kind of going through the process of starting a men's health awareness campaign that covers everything. And I think I'm going, when I was, recovering last year and I called it Save the Nards. And it's probably just a website and maybe a couple events, speaking engagements, things like that. And, it's hard to be a nonprofit because it's the way you have to operate and do all that. What you want to attach to a nonprofit that you can operate under.
Mhm.
And I just want it to be sort of like an awareness thing, a campaign, an event thing where people celebrate. Maybe it's just a social media thing now. But I literally started that like 6 or 7 years ago and stopped. And that's one of my things I'd actually like to kick into gear again.
That is brilliant, and the amount of money you could make off merch to help awareness. I mean, I'm serious, man.
And we
It
would
just sells
definitely,
itself. I'm
we would
serious, dude. That
definitely
just sells
promote
itself.
that.
And so much so, yeah, maybe I'll get it and we'll come back on and we'll promote the brand, right?
Whatever you want,
I
man.
I actually I made a shirt that I used to wear to conventions way back in the early days, and it said "Save the Nards" on it because I thought it was just fun and cheeky. And then I
Yeah.
created the campaign, and I never went to the next step. But all that development stuff is there, and maybe it's because now is a better time.
I think
Well,
now is the time. Now
Andre,
is sure.
I'm good friends with a guy named Ethan Nicole. He actually created Axe Cop, which was a cartoon and a comic book that was on Animation Domination on Cartoon Network for like 2
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
He also has done work for Teen Titans Go. He's written some
That's a great
episodes.
show.
He's
That's a
done a
great
bunch
show.
of stuff.
Yeah.
His name's Ethan Nicole. He's an incredibly talented artist, and I'm very good friends with him. So if you ever want his contact information for like to do a logo for Save the Nards, he would come up, dude. He
Love
would
it.
come up with some good shit for you.
Yeah,
And
put us in touch. I mean,
I will.
You know,
I will.
it's always cool to meet cool people like that anyway. And we
Yeah.
probably know some of the same people. If
Oh, I'm sure
he's
you
in
do.
that animation world.
He's good friends with the creator of Earthworm Jim, Doug TenNapel.
I love that.
He hangs out. He's kind of got a Patton Oswalt. He's good friends with Patton Oswalt from
Yeah.
King of Queens and those guys. But yeah, no, I'll definitely connect you guys. Do you have anything else you're plugging, man, before we wrap up? Or
I think I may have officially just relaunched Save the Nards, so maybe that.
That's breaking news.
That's breaking news.
news.
Right, you've heard it here first. Hashtag Save the Nards. I own it, so don't go try to do it.
It's mine.
That's right. Like I said, Ryan and I just got off a set of a movie called The Demons Within, which is a small local production out of Northwest Ohio that was produced by this cool dude named Cody Hesserling, who is actually a nurse and not a film producer, and directed by Stephanie Hensley. So we got to go up to Northwest Ohio and shoot some cool footage in this demon movie, or this possession movie. So keep an eye open for that. I'm involved with this group of Dallas filmmakers now, called Retro Freaks, and Ryan and I don't know when you're going to air this episode, exactly, but in the middle of December, Ryan and I are. I'm sorry, the middle of October. Ryan and I are back on the road. We'll be in Dallas for a screening of that film. And a launch party for the next thing of their projects, and then we're doing signings in Dallas for 2 days at a toy store, and then at a horror store, and then we're at a convention called Retropalooza, and then we go to 4 Alamo Draft Houses the next week to do Halloween Monster Squad screenings.
Oh my God, awesome!
We'll be in Houston, Houston, Austin, San Antonio, and then Halloween night is San Francisco. And if you're Vegas-based or near Vegas-based, on October 1st, Ryan and I will be at Tom Devlin's Monster Museum. This will probably air after that, but even if it is, go check out Tom Devlin's Monster Museum in Vegas. It's a cool spot. We'll be there signing. And so that's why October is kind of chock full right now.
Yeah,
and
it sounds like it.
I just booked a flight to go to Albuquerque for a couple of days to scout some locations. My man Henry McComas, who made the documentary with me, is a fantastic story developer, a screenwriter, and a director. And hopefully this will be his directorial debut. So producer on that. And so we're trying to get that off the ground. So a lot of stuff's going on right now. So
Yeah.
a lot of cool things.
Yeah, you got it going on.
Josh,
Well,
you
hopefully.
gonna ask him the question?
Yeah, I'm going to ask him that question, but I've got a yes or no question for you guys. We're not going to deep dive. It's
Okay.
just it's a new thing for getting sidetracked. Yes or no, Alex? Yes or no, Andre? Quantum Leap remake. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, because I loved the first one.
Me too.
Okay.
Scott Bakula.
And
Dude.
most people will say no because I liked the first one.
Yeah,
Yes, because I
was just
liked the
curious.
first one. Let's go.
Yeah.
I was just curious. I saw the ad for it, so I was curious.
Yeah, I haven't. I'm looking forward to it. We've got technology, we've got new stories, we've got new stuff to jump into. Hell, Quantum Leap OG was so old. Now they can leap into that time. It was like,
They could.
So there's a lot happening in the last 25 years.
Before we get to the last question real quick, I was going to say Quantum Leap was one of the shows I watched religiously, daytime TV, because it was syndicated, and the episode where Scott Bakula jumps into his own family's timeline where he's trying to like save his dad from a heart attack. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah.
Okay, that episode stuck with me, and I remember his I can't remember, was it Al or Ziggy or whoever was in charge of like the jumps, like he kind of directs him through the episodes, but
as Al, yeah.
Oh,
he's
Al,
like,
you're right. Yeah.
yeah, he's like don't try to get your dad not to have a heart attack. We're trying to save dipshit over here. We're not trying to. And I just remember being like 8 and thinking of all these different angles in my head of how I would handle that. It was
I mean, it brought up very thought provoking. What would you do in that situation? It's tough.
Yeah, pretty good.
I enjoyed Scott Bakula's cameo in Always Sunny in Philadelphia when they did a episode with some leaping. Anyways, we got to ask you, Andre. We got to ask you.
Yeah.
We're being forced. He's forcing us to do season 3. Master Evil is forcing us to watch horrible horror movies constantly. Is there any way you can think to save us or get us out of it? What do you think? What do you say?
I'm gonna have to go with I know you're gonna I mean, you asked for it, you got to take it, you got to sit through it, and I mean, I have to go and do fun stuff, so I'm gonna let you do that.
Okay.
Story of our lives.
We tried.
Another season 3 got renewed. Didn't even know we don't even get paid. We're just chained to a wall. There's literally shackles on our ankles right now, Andre.
Andre's so busy. I get it.
He's booked,
I mean, but look at the time. I'd love to help, but gotta go.
The first time I ever saw Monster Squad,
I was at a sleepover party at a friend of mine.
It was on HBO.
Every time we go to the video store, that's what I'd rent.
I've been at a bootleg DVD. The word got out. Everything we had seen up till then had all been kid stuff, and this was the first taste of something dangerous.
These kids are real kids.
We were a part of the squad.
we went to school with them and we are them.
This movie resonates.
They put up the ticket saying Monster Squad Reunion.
It sold out real fast.
Wait, you know this movie?
I never got the sense that this movie was finding a new audience or that its original audience were enjoying it again.
I did try to start my own Monster Squad.
We never actually performed any jobs.
You find lifelong friends because you have this one weird thing in common that nobody else knows about.
This is a zine I did. It's called I Had Rudy.
Wow.
What a really pleasant surprise that this seed that we planted grew into something. It's like shooting a basket in 1987 and then it doesn't go in until 20 years later.
When Master Evil comes to play, and Mother says that it's okay, Alex and Josh are stole away and made to watch these movies to stay